buyer and agent crisis. Let me pull up a couple things here. Now, what you sent me earlier, was that what you were suggesting to read, Darren? Was that it?
Yeah, I think we should show the article, but that's really what we need to
Yeah.
cover in the article.
Yeah.
We can
Yeah.
quickly summarize the beginning of it.
Yeah. Let me just pull that up. Okay.
All right.
Hold on here. Okay. Let me go ahead and share this thing here. So this comes from Inman.com. It's an industry site for agents and brokers and people in the real estate industry. And it's about the latest news on a couple antitrust suits. RE/MAX settles bombshell commission lawsuits for $55 million. So I'm not going to read all of this. It's definitely a great read. It's a long read, but let me go ahead and point out just the synopsis here. Hold on. Darren, let's see.
So we'll chat about the early stuff
Yeah.
a little bit. This is a lawsuit that was filed last year and has been a topic of conversation in the industry a little bit for those who really like to dive deep. There's definitely been following it to see where it goes. It's based on, whether the industry can force a commission to be paid to a buyer's agent, which is why our topic is about buyer agent and buyer relationships. And RE/MAX is the second company to settle. This is by far the biggest one who settled and one of the biggest companies.
Yeah. Well, now just to remind you though, Anywhere, which represents Sotheby's, a couple other brands that we all know, settled a couple weeks ago at $83 million. So we're getting up there.
Yeah, it's the truth. So some settlements are happening, and I believe in both cases, some practices are being agreed to be changed. So there will be some industry shifts based on this, on these settlements. And also, we'll see what happens with the remaining companies who haven't settled, assuming they all won't, and then it'll go to trial, and we'll see how it comes out on the other side. But with that said, I'll go ahead and let you jump into some of the context from the article that I wanted to make sure we read through.
Cool. All right. So the suits allege that some NAR rules, including one called the participation rule, that requires listing brokers to offer buyer brokers a commission in order to list a property in a realtor-affiliated multiple listing service, violate the Sherman Antitrust Act by inflating seller costs. In January 2022, Anywhere became the only defendant so far to publicly call for NAR to make the participation rule optional rather than a requirement. Pro-competitive, pro-consumer local MLS broker marketplaces ensure equity, efficiency, transparency, and market-driven pricing options for home buyers and sellers. The practice of the listing broker paying the buyer broker's compensation saves sellers time and money by having so many buyer brokers participating in that local marketplace, and thus creates a larger pool of buyers for sellers. For buyers, these marketplaces save them the burden of extra costs at closing, enable them to receive professional representation, and make home ownership possible for more people. In fact, the U.S. model of independent local broker marketplaces is widely considered the best value and most efficient model in the world, with no hidden or extra costs and with more complete verified information compared to other countries. We look forward to arguing our case in court. So there are still some companies and NAR that are holding off and have not settled yet. So brokerages, like Keller Williams and some others. So it's not finished just yet. So what do you think, man? What's the future of all this? What are some comments?
There's going to be some industry shakeup of some kind, undoubtedly.
Right.
I do think some of the comments made there are completely legitimate. Buyers, there are certainly buyers who feel empowered with data and information that's available now over the past 15 years. and there are buyers who feel empowered to go directly and not have an agent.
Mm-hmm.
And some do. Uh, but I will say that and seeing enough of those transactions, they usually they aren't always as represented as they could be. They're not
Mm-hmm.
negotiating the best
Mm-hmm.
they can, or getting the most professional advice that could be given,
Yeah.
and that is 100% accurate. It
Mm-hmm.
is also, it does bring more professionals to the industry. Like real estate's a very competitive field, and often agents rank at the low end of respected professionals in general across the
Yeah.
board. But I will tell you this: those that are good at their job are right up there.
Yeah.
They do a very good job, very thoughtful. It's very involved, but there are a lot of them that don't. The entry
Yeah.
point into real estate is too easy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, you know
and
what? You're right. I mean, there's definitely good and bad to this. We've already seen a good number of agents leave the business because of the downturn, just what's happening now in the market. This will further that, and for the good agents and the customers, the consumers that do recognize that they need an agent, yeah, we will prevail for sure.
yeah, it's going to be a question of whether the
Hmm.
industry and or consumers um, see the value in that buyer's agent.
Right.
Um, there's so much more. We always talk about so much more than the transaction in the moment. It's the
Right.
preparation. It's getting you ready to do this. It's bringing you the
Hmm.
information, and it's being available well after the sale, throughout
Right.
home ownership. And do people feel empowered enough to gather all that information and take those steps forward without any help? In some cases, they do. I'm not going to dispute
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they couldn't have done it better with a professional, but they feel empowered, and that gives
Yeah.
them the opportunity to do it. They can go out and do it without someone.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and where does the industry go with that? It will be interesting to see if they're. My guess is if they take the example of, it's not required. Now you have listings out there without offering a commission to a buyer, and you have listings
Right.
out there with offering a commission to a buyer's agent.
Well, yeah.
How does all
Yeah.
that play out?
Well, what I'm wondering is, will everything remain the same in some sense? From the seller's side, I mean, you do want naturally the largest breadth of buyers and buyers agents looking at your listing. Uh, if you don't offer up any sort of commission, I think it's obvious you may not get as much attention. Will it just
Yeah.
remain the same in some way?
Ironically, what will happen is, and this is, there seems to continue to be potentials of it, us reverting or
Mm-hmm.
digressing back to 15, 20 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Because, in essence, what I mean by that is just lesser information, lesser accuracies. So if this comes into play and
Wow.
there's no more buyer agents, buyers are on their own. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
they can see the listing, but are the filters on the system they're seeking on as good? Do you have an additional layer of oversight? So
Right.
there would be more lawsuits. There would be maybe listings that get sold without a lot of competition for
Mm-hmm.
whatever
Mm-hmm.
reason, intentional, not intentional. Maybe it was placed
Right.
wrong. I mean, us agents, we're like combing through stuff to find opportunities, to
Yeah.
get to our buyers when we're representing buyers. And that just wouldn't happen. Or if we found a
Right.
listing, the reality is we'd go, okay, Mr. Buyer, if you want me to show you this listing, you're going to have to pay me.
Yeah.
Um, and they say
You're
no.
saying You're saying
Okay.
by performance or by level of performance. Yeah.
Right.
Even quality of performance. Yeah, it might turn into that.
It
Um,
will change, and there'll be a lot more. There'll definitely be more chaos in the industry. Where it comes out on
yeah.
the other side, I don't know, but getting to the other side would be messy.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I know you spoke of it. Will this bring more power, obviously, to the listing and the listing agent who'll represent both sides.
Right.
But again, you've got some conflicts there.
Well, and as a listing agent, gonna want? My guess is no, they won't represent both sides. Like,
Right?
there might be
This
a
is
whole.
crossing over into other issues, right?
Why would they? They don't want double the liability. It's
Right.
hard to represent both sides if you have if you're trying to do the best, because you can't always do the best for both sides. What we tell people when we do is, well, look, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to like kind of be a neutral here. We're the deliver. We're just gonna be delivering information and as clear as we can, so you can make good decisions.
Yeah, or will the broker at the brokerage become more important in terms of marshaling that? Because that's a busy broker, I think.
Right.
That's
Who writes the offer? There might be a whole nother service of just offer writing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Or are these flat fee, cutthroat, not good quality necessarily, brokerages going to like swoop in on this opportunity?
Well, that's just kind of your offer writing.
Try to chop it up. Yeah.
Sure. I'm going to pay someone $1,000 to go write and submit my offer, and make sure all the boxes are checked. But yeah, it's just somebody who understands the form. They're not advising you. They don't know the market. They really can't give you a lot of guidance. They probably haven't seen the house, et cetera, et cetera. It will change things. So
yeah,
that's two down, right? Two big people down. There's a few more. So I'll be curious to see where it goes, and then overall how it affects the industry.
Yeah. Well, right. And as you're saying, it's like, okay, well, there's the NAR, there are these settlements acknowledging, and then there are all these MLSs. There's a split there now. Those MLSs are going to have to make way for the anywhere brokerages and the Remaxes that have settled and not require them to.
Right. MLS agents would drop off for sure. There'd be fewer MLSs. The MLSs would go through probably a reasonably large consolidation themselves.
Wow.
Because they won't be making nearly as much money. And yeah, their revenue stream, their way of making money would change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it would be
Good
less
stuff.
local, less accurate, because it just gets bigger. In the end, it's funny. I think they're trying to make it smaller and more personal. But some of this, actually, the only people who can make money then is by being bigger.
Right. Right. Well, I'll give you an example. I guess it's a microcosm or smaller story, but I think it's saying the same thing. So up on Scotland, there was a listing, and the owner decided to go with something called Homecoin. I don't know if you know those guys, right?
Yeah.
Based out of San Diego, that's MLS only. They'll just basically, you pay them and they'll put it on the MLS. And it sat there forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Just watched it, walked by there with my dog. It's just, and sure enough, a fairly well-known agent, Pittsburgh, they changed finally, and 12 days later, sold. Just like that. So, you want to cut corners as a consumer, but this isn't going to the supermarket to buy your fresh head of lettuce. This is a little different.
Yeah.